This is a Hot Pie Media original.
Welcome to Overcome with Justin Wren. I am your host, Justin Wren, and I'm looking over at my beautiful girlfriend partner who I plan on marrying, Amy, the producer of the show. And wow, do we have, and wow, what a view I have. But
thanks, honey.
if you're not watching on YouTube, you might because of her. I've got long lady hair, but she's the beautiful lady in the podcast. This episode today with RJ Mitte, I think is spectacular.
It is spectacular.
It's awesome.
He's hilarious.
He is
and inspiring.
Incredibly inspiring and incredibly hilarious. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
He's charming. He's handsome. And boy, has he overcome a lot in his life. And he shared that.
He's not very old. He's like 29.
29.
Mm-hmm.
And he's was one of the lead actors on Breaking Bad, the hit series. He's the son, Walter White Jr., who started going by Flynn on the show. And I am a fan of who he is as a human being. I'm also a big fan of who he is as an actor. He's taking leading roles in Hollywood. And he has a challenge that he was born with in cerebral palsy. But he talks about how did he say it? That it's a choice. That
he said can't is a choice.
Can't is a choice.
Having that attitude. And his attitude was never that he can't do something.
And I love that because if he didn't have that attitude, he wouldn't have the opportunities that he's had in Hollywood and in making an impact. I mean, this guy's gone on speaking tours and been in so many schools about anti-bullying, and his perspective there was actually something really inspiring. He's had his hand broken by bullies. And
he had to take care of his family.
Yeah, he did. Mm-hmm. He's had to take care of his younger sister. A young age. Stepped up in a big way as a father figure. He's lost his father due to illness. And he is a man that really steps up, rises above the challenges, rises to the occasion, and overcomes. He's a guy that does rise up and overcome.
And he's really cool.
He's really cool. I mean, we went to dinner with him after the podcast.
We did.
One of the coolest things that we got to do with RJ is when he moved to Texas. He lives here now, lives in South Texas. And he drove up for this. And I said, what about us doing a live recording, which is our show's first live recording. It was kind of our launch to friends, family, donors. And we did it at a local spot here, Native Hostel, in a really cool room. And man, Hot Pie stepped up. Hot Pie, who produces this podcast, our network.
Hot Pie Media.
They donated so that we could have that space, or they covered that cost so that it could be 100% a fundraiser. One donor that wasn't even able to make it donated $5,000, over $5,000, which was so cool. And so this event itself raised over $5,000 for Fight for the Forgotten. We had 8 people come, at least from out of state, that drove from Oklahoma, where Fight for the Forgotten is headquartered out of. We had Raiden, who, if you watch the Jared episode on YouTube, Jared Padalecki, you'll see the first story. We're going to insert the second story into this podcast. His family came, and the day before the podcast, him and I sparred together. He came to the show, and it was really awesome. We also had Justin Brown, the secretary, Justin Brown, who's one of my best friends. He's been an incredible impact, and
he's amazing.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, because of him, Fight for the Forgotten never paid rent. He donated office space to us, and then he became the director of human services, takes care of the foster care kids. Anyways, he was a guest
in Oklahoma.
Yes. The foster care kids there, the disabled, the elderly. He takes care of over 1 million Oklahomans, and he's changing the game there because he's so compassionate. And anyways, this episode, to have those people in the room, my mom, my grandma, Amy, her daughter, Sydney, and Hot Pie in the room.
It was a beautiful space too at Native Hostel.
It was.
And so, I mean, I'm so happy that Hot Pie sponsored this for us and for your show. It was was really special.
It was really special. We had some Q&A from the audience, which was...
We had some mocktails.
We had some mocktails on it, donated or sent over a bunch of stuff. And Sam's Bar, which I didn't know about until this event.
I didn't know about it either.
Yeah, it's a completely sober bar, I think on 6th Street or 10th Street. And
he had
Chris,
like non-alcoholic gin, non-alcoholic vodka.
I had no idea there was
I didn't know that existed.
Proof. Yeah. He had bourbon that he was putting in there.
And it was so good.
Yeah. I mean, he gave me a nata colada or something like that. Mm-hmm. And when I had it though, I felt like it had rum in there, and I looked at him and he goes, "Oh no, hey brother, like it's not, I thought I was getting tipsy." And he's like, "No, this isn't," or that I was going to get tipsy. And like our dog's name. But it was awesome to have everyone show up. People from On It, Primal Swolger, if you don't follow him, he's an incredible guy. Juan, my trainer at On It, tried to get in, but anyways, it was an awesome thing. We had so many people there. The room was completely packed out. The chairman of my board, A Fight for the Forgotten, was there. But really, what I want to highlight is that we raised over $5,000. We couldn't have done that without Hot Pie sponsoring this event. And it was super funny. It was incredibly funny. And RJ had us laughing and rolling, talking about really hard stuff. I think that shows someone that, one, is super intelligent, two, is super resilient, that he can make some of his most challenging times humorous. And then he had us rolling even at the restaurant afterwards.
He did. And you're going to laugh because I just have to say this to your listeners and like tell people that there was tableside guacamole on the menu.
There was.
And if you're a Breaking Bad fan, you know the tableside guacamole scene, and it was very tense and they didn't order it. And I was like, I'm not going to sit here with a star of Breaking Bad and not order tableside guacamole. And I ordered it and I was so pleased, and it just made me laugh all the way home. And RJ appreciated it too. I was like, hey, dude, I ordered this. And he was like, yes, of course.
Of course.
So yeah.
How cool was he? He was just one of the realest people to give his time like that. He grew up in a family that was very philanthropic. They have a family foundation. And for him to come out and support my foundation, it meant a lot.
They have a big foundation right here in Austin too, which I didn't even know about, which is very cool.
So we're going to see how we can get involved in that. They want to see how they can get involved with us. And I mean, he was even talking about space travel, and that the next thing is space mining through, like, I don't know, satellite
I think that
drones.
Was at lunch when we talked about that.
Yeah. And that where they're going to be taking silver and gold off of asteroids and things like that. And I'm like, what? He was just blowing my mind with how smart he was, even with like aerospace stuff. I don't even know the right terminology.
I don't either.
But he was blowing my mind, Brigham's mind, of Ways to Well, who came out with us to lunch and who's helping me get healthy. So anyways, get ready, buckle up, Buttercups, because this is going to be an incredible episode. I'm so glad you joined us. Thank you, On It, for sponsoring the show. Thank you, Hot Pie, for sponsoring the event that raised over $5,000 for Fight for the Forgotten. Thank you, RJ, for being our guest and for blowing Amy away.
Mm-hmm. And thank you to the team that helped put on the event.
Easy does it.
And then Easy does it.
Yeah.
Evan and Drew.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. They helped a lot.
And Native Hostel.
Yes, Native Hostel. This was incredible. I hope that it sounds really good. It was hysterical. And I encourage you to watch this on YouTube as well. Please follow or subscribe wherever you listen and watch your podcast. Please catch up on the other episodes because those have been incredible.
They've been incredible. And stick around to the end because we're going to talk about this Mike Tyson painting a little bit, aren't we?
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit today. And just a little bit of news there at the end. So stay till the end.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Enjoy the show.
Thank you. And I just want to say a huge thank you to you all for being here today. We're so excited to do this, and a huge thank you right now and shout out to our sponsors, On It for providing all of the drinks, and Chris for making them. And of course, Hot Pie Media for sponsoring this event today in this beautiful listening room.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Give it up. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you to Evan and your entire team. Drew, you've been so welcoming and so easy to work with. And we're super, super grateful. And thanks everybody for showing up today, because today is the official launch of the Overcome podcast, Overcome with Justin Wren. And so I'm going to throw it to Justin right now. Give it up for Justin Wren.
Hey, thank you. Well, I really appreciate that all y'all are here in Austin today. And looking around this room, I'm really incredibly grateful. There's doctors and people that help people through therapy and people that believe in podcast and helping those grow and expand. There's some miracle stories in the room. There's supporters of mine, long time supporters, from my shoulder surgeon and now chairman of Fight for the Forgotten's board, my executive director that's been with us for 10 years. There's just a lot of people. Hot Pie Media, who is helping me launch this podcast, and they sponsored today's room so that anyone who wants to donate, 100% of that goes to the cause. On it as well, our first sponsor with the mocktails out front, Justin Brown, the director of Oklahoma's DHS, taking care of over 1 million Oklahomans. From people that are disabled or elderly and foster care kiddos. He's got a compassionate heart and really helps people facing poverty, help them overcome. Brigham, you helped me with my health and stem cells. So many people, Ways to Well. So helping me, Joe Rogan, our health. But this podcast, I really want it to help people overcome. I want this to be one of the most meaningful podcasts in all the world. Today, our first episode that actually is live on Apple and Spotify and YouTube and everywhere you can find podcast is a guy named Nick Santanastasso. He is a self-proclaimed unicorn, is how he describes himself. He was born without legs, only one arm and one finger on that arm. And he is one of the most incredible people I've ever known. He's one of our supporters of Fight for the Forgotten. So when you guys get home, you can check that out as we're at our live recording. But Nick has said some incredible things to me, but he flips tires, works out with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, speaks before Tony Robbins. Anywhere Tony Robbins speaks, he's getting Nick to come in and speak. And one of the things Nick has always told me and exemplified is like, man, he's a normal dude. And he says the greatest disability is a bad mindset. I thought that he was a great first guest. And then all of a sudden I was able to meet our guest today that we get to do the live recording in front of. And that's RJ Mitte. And RJ, if you would like to come sit over with us, I would love for you to join us. Let's give him a warm welcome. Yeah. This is my first time doing a live podcast, my man. So
hey, give you a hug. Oh, thank you, man.
Appreciate you being here.
No, my pleasure.
Yeah. And you're an inspiration to me, brother. Absolutely.
Thank you. I mean, it's such a pleasure to be here today, and thank you all for being here as well. I've been following what you do and the impact that you have in many people's lives, and this group that you've put together that keeps surrounding you. And I think you're doing amazing things for a lot of people. So it's definitely a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I'm humbled. I'm honored that you would say that. We've had a lot of incredible supporters along the way. And I've just thinking about it around here. I mean, this is about you, and we're going to get to your story, but I'm blown away when you say that, because you know about our story. And we've had donors from all 50 states, from 60 different countries. And so when people say it to me, I'm like, man, this is an army. It's a movement of people. Yeah. And I would love to actually, maybe we start there, because you've done so many incredible things in the acting world, but I think it'd be really fun for me to hear about, but other people in the room, about the philanthropy work you do. And it's kind of been in your family, right?
Yeah, it has. I actually have a local foundation here in Austin, Texas. My grandparents were from, one's from Brownsville, one's from Bertram, and they met in the middle, and that was Austin. And so they focus on, we focus on anything from elder care, education, disability services, youth development, and aging. We have a scholarship and grant program as well. And right now I'm in the middle. We're doing a community development project down in Brownsville, Texas. But that's kind of always been a part of my life. Philanthropy, I've been very lucky that I've grown up in the understanding of why we need philanthropy, why we need people that work in this type of community, that give and that are able to bring, like you said, a movement together, because that's exactly what this is. It's a movement. It's a global movement, because these rights, these types of things, these equalities that we're fighting for, don't just affect one group, right? They span over everyone. And if we're able to raise or give someone the ability to have a platform to come off of versus sink down in, the possibilities are endless. And I've been very lucky to grow up with that mindset, to grow up with the you give more than you take. You know, you if you do one thing for yourself, try to do is double for everyone else. And luckily, I got a show called Breaking Bad that just amplified my mindset and allowed me to open up a world for people with that have disabilities. And I have a disability myself, right? I was born with cerebral palsy. For people that don't know what cerebral palsy is, it primarily affects the fine and gross motor skills, hand-eye coordination, speech, dexterity. It's commonly caused at childbirth from lack of oxygen to the brain. The best way I can describe it is that you have these parts of your brain that just never were activated, that have never received oxygen. So your brain had to create other neural networks around these unoxygenated parts of your brain, which can affect many things. And usually if you have CP, you have many different other, it comes as a party, you know? You don't just got one thing. So many different facets of therapy. And in my whole life, I grew up with Shriners Hospitals for Children and people that supported me and gave me the tools to talk to people like you, to come to things like this. And when I booked Breaking Bad, having the character Walt Jr. was one of those characters that, yes, it was a character with a disability, but it wasn't about that. It was about a person with a family that's just trying to get through everyday life. And I think when people see individuals that may be different from them or may have different physical or mental challenges than them, they see that first, right? They see these labels that we like to place upon ourselves, but they don't actually see the impact and the training and the understanding that comes with something like this. And I was very lucky to have Walt Jr. be that example. And it just amplified what we do. And I work with hundreds of different organizations. Actually, I know Nick. I worked with him and other things. There's an organization called Runway of Dreams. And they work with Zappos Adaptive and focus on creating adaptive clothing. And we did a fashion show for Zappos. And Nick was on it and a bunch of great people. And it's, you know, I'm not always the most outgoing person. Like I actually don't like talking in front of crowds. But
thank you for doing this.
No, hey, it's what I do.
Yeah.
But when you have causes like this that have such an awareness that can reach so many people, and so many people are looking at it for not just for entertainment, but for guidance, for different views, for information to make themselves stronger, to give them that platform. And I think what you did and what drew me to you was that way of your movement through the sports and through activities and through outreach and how you've transferred that over to just really a community. And that's what this is. It's a community, and linking the communities are so key.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, where I learned about community most, because I grew up getting very heavily bullied and sat at the lunch table by myself. And from 3rd to 8th grade, like it was really hard. Yeah. But I found community in sports, and that was great. But a lot of times in a fighter gym, I mean, fighters can be some of the nicest, most compassionate guys, even though they
do what they do.
Yeah. Yeah. But it wasn't until I was in Africa with the Pygmy people and I lived there with them in the jungle that they taught me, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Mm-hmm. And that's what I want this podcast to be, is like a community of people that can, whatever changes they need to make or whatever challenges they need to overcome or overtake, like I want them to find this as inspiration, hope, meaning. But man, I think that, what did you find from being on Breaking Bad and the community? Because I remember I didn't get into it until the 3rd or 4th season. Was that kind of the phenomenon of the show? Like all of a sudden it took off, not after the 1st or 2nd.
It was wild. I do have to, I love Netflix for what it did to the show. At the same time, it kind of, it kind of opened the show up in different ways. But really, once we were on streaming platforms, so Breaking Bad started in 2006. And not a lot of people realize this. I think we have more fans now than we had in the 2010s. It was really the last season where we were like, whoa, this was actually big, because every season we would get canceled. Like every season I would hear, don't prepare not to come back. and that was kind of our life, was like this thing of like, it could be done any second. And we actually survived the writer's strike.
That's incredible.
And it was like a massive thing for us to be able to keep doing this when every other show that we were like working against, and I say against but like Emmys and stuff, was all getting canceled, and we're like, are we next? And we had around 500 people that worked on our show, from cast, crew, actors, production in New Mexico, because it was 100% in New Mexico, and our writing office was in LA. And it was really a family dynamic. It was one of those things where everyone was kind of all hands on deck always. And when you have that type of project that people love, at the end we had to kind of shut down our scripts, right? People were trying to like leak the episodes and stuff, but in the beginning, for the first few seasons, everyone got every script from not just actors and producers, but the crew itself. And everyone was so heavily invested in it that no one gave secrets away. And when our crew got a little bigger, we kind of had to lock it down, One guy always ruins it for everyone. But we were so tight knit, and what was really cool, and I didn't recognize it at the time, and I recognize it now, is just the way that we were written, the characters, and the cinematic value of every episode and every scene, and the perfection that everyone wanted to give. It was there. And that comes from passion. That comes from belief. And when you have that and everyone has it, you make things very, very special. And Breaking Bad was such an amazing show. I still talk to all the guys. I mean, everyone's got their own families, right? Everyone's got their own lives and their own shows, and their own tequila, and but we were all very close, and we're still very close.
Right.
So
you saying your own tequila, I'm gonna get this water a little closer to you, a little closer to me. Yes, sir. But I wonder, one of the things I get a lot, and maybe you get it from fans or followers of yours, is how do you find your passion, or how do you find your purpose? And for you, how did you do that through, you found a passion in
still
acting.
Trying to find it.
Okay.
Like, this is the thing about passion and purpose, is it can change like instantly. Like you can have something so meaningless or meaningful as a cup of water, and that could change your life in like a second. It's not always easy to keep the passion, but what I love is the impact I get to have with the people around me, and like seeing the change in the environment, and seeing new things and impactful things that happen, not just for me, but for the people and my friends that are around me. By doing what I get to do, really is what makes me very, very happy that I'm able to bring the friends along, and finding what I love to do. And that changes all the time. But really, I think the root of it is just find what makes you happy. I mean, like, I know it's such a lame answer, like, but it's true. If so many people in their life do things that make them miserable. Like we do things every day that we're like, we don't want to go to work, or we don't want to get out of bed. And when you have something that makes you want to get out of bed, that makes you want to go to work, and that even in the darkest of times, you can find those happy moments, like that's something that you need to protect. And recognizing that, I'm a firm believer of can't is a decision. If you say you can't do something, I can't do this or I can't do that, well, maybe not right now. But if you want to achieve that goal, if you want to find that purpose or fulfill that purpose, like go and work every day to achieve that goal and make that a can decision versus a can't.
I really like that. A comment for the live audience, and I've got a question for you. Is if you guys need to stretch your legs, use the restroom, just feel free. This is like a living room. It's treat it like home. We'll roll with it. But I want to dig into that a little bit with how you said to overcome and to keep pushing and to keep going. You had to do that at an early age where you might have been dealt a hand that some of us can't really relate or understand to truly, because we didn't have to go through maybe I had speech therapy. I think you might have had speech therapy. And then what other kind of therapy did you grow up with that you were like, okay, I have to do these things to be able to become an actor? Well, I actually didn't want to become an actor. Okay.
It wasn't even a thought in my mind that this would actually be a real thing. Like not that once I was in it, it's kind of like the mob. Once you're in, you're in. And you can never leave it, and it will never leave you. But growing up, I was very lucky. So again, I have cerebral palsy, and I wasn't diagnosed until I was around 2 or 3 years old. I kept passing all the tests, right? There were these basic tests, and whenever I got them, I would figure out how to pass it. And so it took them a while, and until my grandmother actually every year she would go, or not every year, every few years, she had one of those old grandma caddies. You know what I'm talking about? The little gangster lowrider caddy.
Mm-hmm. I like it. My grandpa had one of those.
Yeah, they're comfortable cars, I'll tell you that. But every year she would go and she would trade it in, right? And one year I happened to be with her, and the gentleman there happened to be a Shriner. And at this point, they wanted to do surgery. They wanted to like cut my brain open. They wanted to do all these things where it was like, we don't really know, but we're just going to go dig around and poke in it. And my mother was like, no, like we need to find out what's wrong with him, or what's not so much what was wrong with me, but why is he not doing normal or holding normal things? Like just in general, right? Because it primarily affected my my speech, my hand-eye coordination, my dexterity. So the best way to put it is like a 3-second delay. So right, so everything I'm saying to you, I actually thought 3 seconds ago. So it's very cognitive thought that comes out sometimes. But when I was 2, this Cadillac salesman said, "Hey, does your grandson have CP?" And at this point, we went to doctors all over the country with the same result as I was diagnosed with. We know he has something, but we don't know what. Great diagnosis. And at the time, that's what my grandmother told this man is, oh, we don't really know. We know he has something, but we don't know what. And he was like very adamant that he was like, your grandson has cerebral palsy. Like, I work with kids every day, and you need to go to Shriners Hospitals for Children, which the very first one was in Shreveport, Louisiana. If y'all don't know what Shriners are, that's part of the Masonry, and part of that is you can either stay in the masonry or go into the shrine, which they focus on the well-being of children. They were founded in like 1920 to kind of combat polio at the time. Polio was a really big issue then, still is today, but they didn't know what to do, and it was kind of polio, and then it turned into burns, and then it kept evolving over the millennia. And today they treat a bunch of different things with hospitals all over the world. But I went up there. I was living in Lafayette, Louisiana at the time. And the nearest one was in Shreveport, Louisiana, which was about 4 hours north. And that weekend, we were able to get an appointment. We drove up there. And within the first hour of going in and seeing, they were able to diagnose me and started my therapy. And they started me with occupational therapy, speech therapy, and physical therapy, as well as feet binding and braces. So they fitted me for my braces. I had AFOs and SMAFOs, which were these kind of like plastic leg shells that go on the back of your leg and up your foot here, because my feet, instead of normally being like this, they wanted to bend down. So like our natural position, our natural body position is the fetal position. So like if you've seen in strokes or anything, a lot of people, they curl up, but that's because that's our natural body. That's what we're born in. That's our positioning, that our body is like, oh, revert. So a lot of it's like a massive Charlie horse, right? For the whole body that just wants to contract. So part of that is exercise. A big part of that is physical exercise, as well as cognitive exercise. But within the hour, they put me in braces. They fit me for my braces. They wrapped my legs in casts. They sent me home. They said, come back in a week to pick up your braces. These are the therapies you need. Come back twice a week. And we would literally drive back and forth between Lafayette. And that's the thing, is people don't realize it's when you're doing something like this for the ones you love. I know families that drive 14, 15 hours to seek physical therapy and occupational therapy. You make the distance. You know, sometimes you think, oh, that's so far, but when you don't have a choice, you make it work. And so I did that, and part of my therapies were also sports. I was big into sports when I was a kid.
Which sports did you play?
So I was in karate.
Okay, there you go.
So I went to a karate, jiu-jitsu, boxing academy for a while. I played soccer. I got into dirt bikes and go-karts for a little bit till I crashed them.
Yeah.
I came home and I was like, "Where's my bike?" And she's like, "What bike?" Sold it. Gone. I lift the garage to pull my bike out. I'm 8, by the way, to pull it out. And I rode motorcycles with casts on my, so I was, you ever see that dude on the freeway with the cast on his arm and the cast on his foot driving the bike? And you're like, man, that guy's stupid.
He's pointing at himself if you're listening.
But so I was always very active, and I grew up with a Marine grandfather who my family was very close with, my grandparents on both sides of my family, and we'd go fishing and hunting, and they were all professional fishermen and hunters, and was very active, and always stayed active, and I learned how to incorporate my therapy in my everyday life. Even subconsciously right now, I'm somewhat doing therapy, talking to Jan. No. But that was kind of my way, is trying to figure out how to carry it through my everyday life. How could I make it where it's not a chore for me? Because when you're doing therapy, when you're, and your shoulder, when you had to do therapy for that, it was miserable.
Yeah, it was.
Like miserable. And you don't want to do it. But if you don't,
to get the maximum benefits and the full function back, or to get to where I want to be, you have to go through that pain.
Or you digress.
Yeah.
And you're only going to experience more pain. And so that was kind of my thing, is how could I how can I minimize the pain in therapy and maximize my impact in my everyday life? And I went from anything from folding towels, and it doesn't have to be complicated,
right?
Like folding towels, like kneading bread, cooking. One of my big things is I couldn't feel hot and cold. So I can actually sometimes shut off my receptors, and I burned myself a lot when I was a kid because I would go and touch things that were scalding hot, and I would end up with 3rd-degree burns. I took my whole arm one time on a hot lawnmower engine and was talking to my cousin, and I didn't feel it. But we smelled it.
Yeah. So he smelled it.
So we smelled it. And we're like, man, what's that? And I do this. And he just goes no. And then I freak. And they ran me in, and it turned out to be fine. But it's okay. I couldn't feel it.
So no wonder you were so good at karate and jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
Well, hey, actually, so I mostly incorporated my karate into my soccer playing.
Okay. Yeah. Headbutting? No. We weren't allowed to do that.
We were children. But keep in mind, I had braces on my legs. So I had these not metal, but these plastic braces that covered my back and down my foot, so as well as a shin guard.
Yeah, as the shin guard. Yeah.
So I was fearless. I did not care how big you were. I am going for the ball, and you can't stop me. And I actually initially what they did was they put me in the center. I was the guy that kicked off the ball because when they saw me line up the ball, they all got out of the way, which they didn't want the smoke, I guess. I don't know. But really my key though for a lot of my therapy was making my clinical therapy my everyday life. Like being able to incorporate whatever it was I was doing, and when it came in, one of the simple things is towels. Literally matching the corners, folding the towel, and then having your mom or someone come and knock them all over and do it again, and keep being able to organize things and put them in ways that you're cognitively looking at and seeing that and being able to connect those from your hands to your brain.
Wow.
And it's really simple after you get it. After you get how you're like, oh, this is therapy in its own way, and this is something that's making me stronger or faster or whatever it may be in my everyday life. And
I wonder if you've seen a common thread or maybe a common denominator, because whether it's people that have been successful in acting or if it's people that you might be commentating or broadcasting for at maybe the Paralympics or maybe in any of the nonprofits that you're on the board of, like a common denominator for people who have overcome.
Perseverance. I mean, what
does that word mean to you? Perseverance.
So perseverance means no matter how down you are, no matter where you're at, like on how far on the totem pole you're down, how low in the world you could be, you're still able to do whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Because the thing about it is life, you don't control life. Life happens, right? Everything happens. You could get a call today and have devastating news, but you still gotta go live and do your stuff, live your life, and persevere through those dark times. And I see it a lot in individuals with disabilities. I see a lot with people in the industry that
you're good.
I see a lot when it comes to people in the industry like that have that. To be an actor, you have to have some form of trauma, just across the board.
Thinking about some of my friends that are in acting.
I mean, because that's what we pull from. We pull from our traumas. We pull from our experiences. And that information that we experienced, we put into our characters. We work it through our characters. One of my favorite parts of acting is, and I don't need to see a therapist because I just I just convey my emotions. I convey like whatever it is that's in me, I'm able to put it out there.
There was a moment on Breaking Bad that I remember when Walter White, Bryan Cranston, is in jail and he calls you.
Yeah.
And you're on the phone with him, and I mean, you could do it way better than me or set that story up, right? But you were talking about you just killed Uncle Hank, and he was trying to talk you in or manipulate you this way or that way. And you went to this place. I just remember seeing, that was one of my favorite scenes.
Thank you.
Because you went to this place of like so real, so authentic. Can you set that up for anyone that maybe didn't see it?
So at this point, Breaking Bad, this is towards the end. If anyone hasn't watched the show, you're going to find out the ending.
Sorry.
And at this point, while Junior's at school, his dad, my dad's on the run. He's trying to he got busted. He got caught. Everyone knows the jig is up. And it's right after Hank was murdered, and no one has information, but we know all this is happening, and the police are listening on the other line, and it's kind of this he's trying to justify what he did, trying to justify this was for my family, this was for you, this was like this, and try to be able to have that father-son moment he never got the chance to have, but at that point it was kind of too late. And so cause during this whole period of the show, instead of being the father to him, he's the father to Jesse. And Dean's character, Hank, has been that father that we always had, that cool uncle, right? We always had that guy that wasn't your dad, but you were I wish this could have been my cool dad, except I got this guy. But no offense to dads. But kind of has that, and he initially pretty much tells him to die, to just go away, and why can't you just die? And I apologize.
You're good, my man.
Yeah,
you're a busy man.
It's my mother.
Yeah. If you need to take it, go ahead, my man. We'll edit it.
No.
Okay.
If anything, she'll call Madison.
Cool.
But yeah, so it kind of has that moment, and everything he thought he was going to say to me just turned into, I wish I was dead. And it's one of those things that, like I was saying earlier, that acting could be therapeutic in a way where not so much me and my father had a rough relationship. I love my father. He passed away last year. It's okay. He was in very, very poor health for a very long time. And so me and him always had the Walt Jr. Heisenberg, if you made a movie about us, that probably was a very similar situation, except for the meth. But we kind of had that dynamic in a way, and luckily towards the end we were able to resolve our differences in a way, and I was able to help him towards the end of his life, and it is what it is.
Would that mean for you, where you have maybe a tough relationship, but in the end, you were able to be there?
I have a little mess up view on this, because I've been at the end for many people in my life, and the meanest and evilest people are actually very soft people towards the end. And that's one thing that I just don't take it for granted, just at the end, whatever happened, you kind of gotta have that consoling moment and make that peace, because certain times, this might be all you're going to get. And any of us could leave here today and make the street and get hit by a car. hope, God forbid that happens. I'm not, I want to see all of you again, but like I could literally be driving back home and this could be our last conversation. And so I think the biggest thing is no matter what animosity you have towards someone, no matter like what someone's done, you know, there are some unforgivable things in life, right? But for the most part, we're people. We're humans. We make mistakes. We're selfish creatures. That's just naturally we want to do our things for ourselves. And I find in those final moments of life, and I hate putting it like that, but you could either send them with hope or despair. And I find sometimes you gotta swallow your pride. Sometimes you gotta like make that extra step and be like, I forgive you. Like, you know that you, and it's a really kind of like, it's not always like the best. Like sometimes you don't really forgive them, you know, like, and you can't resolve the issue, but you could be there in that moment. And that is probably one of the best things you can do for someone in life is like be in those final steps. And
I think that's a gift because no one, I mean,
you don't always get
your
it.
Dad, I mean, no matter what you guys had, he was
he was my dad.
He brought you here into this earth, and
I'm adopted.
Okay.
I got you there.
You got me. You got me. I forgot that part. But they I guess the thing is the gift. Put my foot in my mouth. The gift there is, you know, being there for someone because no one wants to be alone.
No one.
I think that the times in my life when I was suicidal, I've overcome or survived suicide twice. And I think we've all overcome 100% of our darkest days. Yeah. That's what this podcast is based off of. But for me, you know, those times that I was in that suicidal place, the 2 times especially, I felt alone. Even though I might not have really been. Maybe I forced myself to be alone. I was isolating. Yeah. I felt hopelessness. And I felt like I was a burden, you know? And so I think being there for your adopted father, it was my dad. Your dad. You were able to give him a gift of, you know, being there for him. And that shows, whether it's you being the bigger man or being a good son, it was I think the next right thing to do. Yeah. Right. For you in that moment.
Yeah. My father was bipolar, schizophrenic, manic depressive. Wow. Ex-addict
too.
Wow, well, I mean, for him, he never was. He just turned that into food. Like for him, he never really recovered and made his decisions and never really took his medication. And, you know, I grew up with a lot of like all my diabetes, emphysema, bipolar, I had a lot of people with a lot of different things in their life. So for me, why I feel so strong to do things like this and work with other organizations is whatever people label it as just disability, right? But this world, these things that we have, I've been very blessed to be able to experience them firsthand. And see these insights into people's lives and this human condition that we all share. And you know, I think it's a great honor to be able to go through something like this and survive, you know, to experience what you experience, because this is the thing with what you experience. You can't really convey it except for you can feel it, and you can then feel that and go, okay, I see you, I see you, I see you, I see you. And you can recognize the look in someone's eye. You can relate to them, and you can actually share that moment, and hopefully you could save someone. Hopefully and not just like save their life, but just save their mind, you know, because a lot of people sit in darkness. A lot of people do remove themselves from society, do ostracize themselves from their friends, their communities. And one of the best things I actually learned, one of my favorite things actually is an organization here called Mobile Loaves and Fishes. I don't know if you've heard of this. They're a great organization.
I'm gonna look into them.
Yeah, they focus on homelessness, but the big thing is community, and they've narrowed down a lot of reasons why people are homeless, but why people have these addictions and why blah blah blah. Right? It was all mental illness or whatever, but really what comes down to it, and I think this is actually what we have to work on for our world and for our future, is they've narrowed it down to catastrophic loss of community. And that's why they stay on the streets. That's why people stay into drugs. That's why people stay into these habits, is because that's their community. And if they don't stay in this, where are they going to go? And it's this perpetual cycle of, this is my community and I'm afraid to leave it, even though it might be killing me or harmful to my friends, harmful to my family, but I can't break this because of my community mentality. And I think that's something that that we all forget, that we're all part of the same world, the same community, and growing from there.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all this, by the way.
No worries.
This is great.
It's all public record anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So what would be for you, what would be one of the toughest moments in your career where maybe you wanted to give up or choose not to overcome?
Last week?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It comes, it comes and goes. My job is a very fickle job. Like this month I'm unemployed, next month I'm employed. Right? It's one of those things where you're only as good as your last project. You're only as good as your next article or that theory. Right? And I think for me, probably the hardest time that I had was every once in a while I'll get an ultimatum, and there's no in the middle, and it comes in different things where I have to make a decision, and they're usually life altering decisions. And one of those was, I was like 14, 15 years old. My grandmother was dying, my grandfather was dying, my papa was dying, and my great grandmother was all dying, all within like 6 months. And I was also filming Breaking Bad, and I was also taking care of my mom. And my mom was actually paralyzed, not fully paralyzed, but paralyzed for about 7 years, right after my little sister was born. So I was 12 when she was born, and my mom didn't really recover from her back surgeries for about 7 years. Couldn't take care of my sister. Not take care, but like couldn't lift her. Right? She couldn't lift anything heavier than a loaf of bread, and a baby weighs more than a loaf of bread. So I was kind of in a position of careers, family, logistics, because they're in Texas, Louisiana, I'm in California and New Mexico, and still trying to juggle all the things, and at the time I was also trying to go to school, and so it was kind of these decisions that I had to make, and some of them were the right decisions, some of them wrong decisions, but decisions nonetheless, and I think the big thing for me was just being okay with whatever happened after I made the decisions. And, I kind of had to pick, like situations. And luckily I was able to spend a lot of time with my family and stuff and still be able to work and do it. But it was one of those things where it's like, what's the point of this at a certain point? Like, why am I still doing this? Like, why do I want to keep going? And I think everyone in one place or another asks yourself, like, why am I still doing this? What decisions am I making that are putting me back into this position? And I think recognizing what I needed to make my decision basing on, grew with me. And I'm 15 years old. I'm a kid, right? Mentality wise, but I'm working on these shows. I'm taking care of my sister, taking care of my mother, and then dealing with everything else back in Texas and Louisiana. And like, you know, when you're being stretched Armstrong everywhere, you kind of just want to just throw it all in the air, and you just kind of want to blow it up. You just, and you go through these stages when you're overwhelmed, right? When you have these moments of like, is any of it worth it? Do I just flush it? Like, and sometimes you flush it. And sometimes you just say, you know what? No, cancel everything. I'm done. But you can't get it back. Like when you make those types of decisions, and you know, I had to learn what you can and can't recover from.
Do you have any of those decisions that you'd mind sharing? That's like maybe one of those life altering ones, like you had a crossroads where it was like, this would have forever changed my life this way.
So I have one that's uplifting, or not uplifting, but unique in a way. So I was working a lot at this time. I was traveling. I was on probably like 5 flights a week for 6 months straight, and like we're like doing speaking engagements and doing other things, and not just in the US but globally, and traveling and really like just like motivational and impact and anti-bullying and all this stuff, and like I was just like kind of like, I don't want to keep doing this type of content anymore, you know? And I was kind of in a place of like, do I really help anyone? Do I really make a difference? Like, there's no point to any of this. Like, it's like, yeah, they see it, but no one really cares. And so I was in that kind of mindset of like, no one really gives a shit about this, and I'm just spinning my wheels doing nothing. And so I was like, oh, you know what I want to do? I want to do a survival TV show. Because all I wanted to do was go into the wilderness. That was all I wanted to do, was just like not be booked. And I sound like it's like, oh my God, it must be so bad for them. But like at the time, like the last thing I wanted to do was work. Like the last thing I wanted to do was talk about talk about anything that we're talking about today. like that was just like, I just couldn't hear myself anymore. And like, and it didn't mean it was like, I didn't care. And when I would do the things, I would talk with everybody, right? Because I would go to a school and there'd be a couple hundred people there. And so like, I would start at like 6, or I would start my travel at like 6 a.m. I would get there at noon. I would spend 4 hours with the school, and then I would meet and greet every single one of the students. And then I would do that again the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And like, I would make a lot, I meet a lot of cool people and have great conversations. But I was just like wearing myself down on am I doing anything? Is this making a difference? I couldn't see the difference anymore. And like, for me, that was kind of, when I don't have a point or a purpose, I'm not there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, there's no point, there's no purpose, I'm out. And I had this one job that I was booked for. And I decided that I was going to drop everything and go live on this desert island for 3 weeks. And I did. And I made the decision, and I dropped my book and I picked up this show. It was called The Island with Bear Grylls. I don't know if y'all seen that. It was really amazing experience. Like I really loved it, but in hindsight, I probably really shouldn't have taken the job. Like, I had momentum. I was like, I look back and I was like, man, I really was reaching a lot of people. Like I reached back and I was like, because I was having conversations with people who were suicide, and they were suicidal, and they were talking about like, I had this one kid come up to me and was like, yo, what you said to me really resonated with me, and was like, I've had these really messed up thoughts, and I don't really feel that I have to deal with those thoughts anymore. And like, I kept having these kind of conversations with random people, and it was just that I couldn't I was like, is this kid lying to me? Like, right? This dude ain't. I was like, in my mind, I was like, this kid ain't suicidal. But we still had the meaningful like conversation and the important conversation about perseverance and just finding time for him and all these things. But I really wasn't finding time for myself. And so I took this job and then I really haven't spoke since. I kind of like messed up the job for my future. And after that, the booking agent was like, kind of when I made that decision, was like, well, we're not going to book you anymore. And not that was that, it just, I wasn't reliable at that time because I was like, I can't do this. I left to the Panama Canal for 4 weeks. And in it, and when I did the show, I didn't really escape what I was running from because I'm on this show now with these people who are experiencing depression and we're all stranded on an island and we had to support and take care and raise each other up. And I'm like, well, shit, I just went from what I was doing before, but now I'm stuck on a desert island with it. And I'm having the same conversations I'm having at the school with some of the castmates, and I'm just like, I literally, I was only on it for 8 days. They made fire for us, and I was out, and because no one was really working together. We had really good people, but then we had people that were all right. But all great people. And it was a lot of fun. And like, do I regret it a little bit? Yes, because that was that ultimatum decision, right? I chose this career path over this career path, and it altered my life. It altered the last 7 years of my life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I do see the error I made by making that decision. And luckily, I'm able to recognize that emotion now and feeling that despair, that just the overwhelmingness of like, eventually you do something enough at the same time. Eventually you don't have to think about it, but you don't realize you also lose how special it is. Yeah. And how unique it is. And that was kind of that moment where I was like, man, I was sitting on this beach in the Panama Canal going, I could have made the same money for 1 day. And now I don't have food or water. And I'm here for 3 weeks.
This podcast is brought to you by Onnit. Onnit.com/overcome. They are a sponsor of this podcast. I'm so grateful. Soon enough, there will be a donate button to Fight for the Forgotten in the cart. But this episode was really fun to have an Onnit mocktail bar. We had so many fun flavors.
We had every flavor that was even, I didn't even know there were some of those flavors.
Elderberry lavender, orange guava, Meyer lemon,
well, they
all
did some
sorts
New
of
Mood
coconut lime.
Yeah, they did a few other things in there too. But
we had New
Alpha Brain
Mood,
is
we
my
had
favorite.
Viratech and Alpha Brain. Wow. I was able to make a Onnit Palmer where had some Meyer lemon and some like green tea. And then a Lemonade where I had the Viratech with lemon with the Alpha Brain lemon and the Meyer lemon on both of them. So just like double lemon and double, like get the Alpha Brain effect where you get the awesome alertness. And then also you're boosting your immune system with the Viratech. It is awesome. And I'm so incredibly grateful because for me to be a sponsor of the show, I really need to believe in the company. And this is a company I believe in as much or more than anyone else I could think of. They have sent me stuff while I was in the Congo and recovering from malaria. And that was the boost I needed. I needed those supplements for my recovery. Whenever I was very, very sick. And so they're helping me with my comeback to fighting. And for me, Alpha Brain is my absolute favorite product, although they have the new mood is a close second. Total Human as well.
And you mainly use the Alpha Brain Instant, right? And the Black Label.
I use the Black Label. That's got some caffeine. My favorite is the brand new Focus Shot.
I know you love those.
I love those. Well, they taste delicious. Think about a 5-hour energy that's even better.
Yeah, because that's one of the things they've proven for you in your own life. And like, you can trust their ingredients and stuff. And I was reading what's in these Focus Shots. By the way, they have 2 flavors. They have peach and
Tropical's my favorite. Tropical. Peach is good.
Tropical
is
your
great.
favorite. I thought tropical.
Okay, so relating it back, my favorite thing in the world is passion fruit. That's my favorite fruit, and passion fruit juice.
Take note.
No, it's in the tropical.
Oh, it's in the tropical.
Passion fruit is part of the flavor.
Let me see.
And it's really good. I mean, at least it's on the drawing on the cover, and I like it. In there
with it, you've got ashwagandha.
Yes.
KSM 66 ashwagandha root extract, cognizin cytidine. I don't know. I'm probably butchering that, but you know what I mean.
That's all right.
Lion's mane, L-theanine.
Yep.
Caffeine from green tea extract.
And that's in a Focus Shot, something like that. On days I was really dragging, I got in a bad habit 10 plus years ago with drinking those 5-hour energies, and those things can make you real shaky. And I don't mean to knock anybody else, but this is what I love about the Focus Shot is that I am just this clear alertness, this calm alertness, and I get into the flow state faster. I stay in it longer. For me, that's important, whether it's going to On It Gym ATX or going to box or sparring or to have a great conversation here. I alternate Alpha Brain, which doesn't have any stimulants, whether it's the instant or the normal pills. And then I also use the Focus Shots or Alpha Brain Black whenever I want to take it up to the next level. So thank you so much. If you want to get some, it's at onit.com/overcome. I encourage you to do so because I think it will be one of the best supplements you've ever taken. Now, let's return to the show, and thank you, Onnit, for making it possible. Well, I'll try to relate this to you a little bit because one, I think that we can't make those decisions where it forever changes our life one way or the other. But I can relate in a way that through my own addiction.
Yeah.
When I had surgery, not on my shoulder, but on my elbow here, when I was real young, I got hooked on Oxy quick. And then it just spiraled from that to like marijuana to just anything that changed the way I feel. And I would lose momentum on things whenever I would come up on this choice, and mine could be like, go do something great or do something that makes me feel great in the moment, but like, it's going to like derail this over here.
Yep.
And so sometimes those times I would choose to use, man, it would just, everything would downward spiral. It would plummet. I would almost die some of the times. And then afterwards you get out of that and you emerge from it pretty remorseful, and you make all these firm resolutions, never again, or I'm going to do this. But then you look back and you're like, oh no. But I've actually had moments where I've made those decisions, and then a group or community comes around me in a way that has really helped alter my life to where with Fight for the Forgotten, there's been a couple different times I could have / should have lost this opportunity to be the founder or to be the spokesperson or to be, and the board had made some tough decisions because I would say, hey, I need some help. And they got me into treatment. Or, you know, and then there's all the shame, the guilt, like, oh, I could have, you know, kept this momentum going. But I think as I take care of me more, I can take care of others more. And I've learned that the hard way. Yeah. I've learned that a lot, but.
No, I agree though. And I think that's kind of being able to recognize that. Like that's the hardest thing about anything in life is being able to go, oh, I know what this path is. And that's the path I don't want.
Yeah.
Like, and having the people around you that go, that take you and keep you on that path with them, and you want to stay on that path with them. And I think so many times, like, we lose sight of our surroundings. We lose sight of those people, and sometimes they're not there. And in those brief moments are when we get lost in the trees. And I think it's something that everyone faces in their life. And it's not always life-altering decisions, but at the same time, you never know in those moments where your life would go and where and how far it could take you. And it's something though that like we have to learn it that way. You know, we don't always get the luxury of learning it easily, you know, and I think that there is an important piece to our life on learning our mistakes and learning when we know what this is and we can recognize it so we can actually recognize it in others. Yeah. And that's how I feel that we make the difference.
Yeah. I think there was like some proverb, I'm probably slaughtering it, but it's like a fool learns from his own mistakes. A wise man learns from other people's mistakes. And I just haven't been that wise that much. I've always had to learn from my own mistakes or like for it to really hit home.
See, I've always done it where it's like, man, that looks fun.
yeah. And then you learn the hard way, but the fun way sometimes. But it's, man, I really appreciate how open and honest you're being on this entire conversation.
This is all a lie.
Okay.
This is just one big acting.
Well, yeah, you get paid to pretend for a living, but at least you're being real honest here. I feel. But what do you think, or could you share one of those bullying moments? I mean, I think you had your hand.
So
broken,
I had my hand broken by like a bully / friend. You know, growing up, I always was the new kid. So when I was young, my parents divorced when I was 2 months old. And so I was split kind of between Texas and Louisiana. And so every other year I was always moving to a different school. We were always moving to a different town. So I would start over every year, right? It was always the new kid with braces that talked a little funny, that walked a little funny. And oddly enough, I would always somehow in my first day run into the worst guy every time. And you know, one time I was playing basketball and the dude, like I was kind of winning, like not really, but kind of. And he had like steel-toed shoes on and he like kicks the ball out of my hand and like breaks my hand across the knuckles. And I a lot of stuff of like just kind of like name calling or whatever, because a lot of people, they see the braces, right? They'll see the physical thing and they go, oh, he's weak or he's slow or whatever these assumptions are when they see people that are a little different from them. And they learned very quickly that I wasn't weak and I wasn't slow. But ironically, I would end up like initially befriending my bully, and they weren't really a bully anymore to other people, like oddly enough. And then I left the school. I don't know what happened after that. But And then I had like this one kid that was always like anytime in gym class would grab my hoodie and launch me off my feet, right? Or like cornered. But I never allowed my bullies to really, I gave them 2 chances. and after the 2 chances, game was on. I didn't play that. I grew up with a Marine grandfather. So if I went home and I didn't win the fight, I had a worse fight at home. and like, so like really, I think for me, when it came to bullying was, and I learned very early on about bullies is some people just want to hurt you. Like that's you're going to find those people that just don't care. They have a shitty at home life. Someone's abusing them. Someone's doing something to them and they just want to go to school and hurt someone because they're being hurt. And I was very lucky that I learned that like
hurt people.
Hurt people hurt people. When you are cornered, I don't care you could be at someone with knives and you corner the wrong person into a corner. It doesn't matter how much upper hand you have, because when someone is truly desperate, anything is possible. And I was able to really kind of be like, why me? Like I straight up would ask, like, if you were pushing me or like name calling or whatever, like I would pretty much be like, do we have a problem? What do you want? And I would keep asking that question every time I saw them, every time they did. I'd be like, what do you want? And like sometimes it was like a stupid answer, is like to do this or like to like this, but eventually it turned into, I don't know what I want. Then why are you doing this to me? And that would open up to a whole other thing of like, well, I don't have any friends. I don't my dad, my mom, like, and it's like eventually we got to the root of it. And I was like 8 years old doing this, like to like kids that were like 14 years old. Like my bully was never my age. My bully was always like that. Like I'm looking up at the guy, and I was just the weakest person he found, or what he saw was weak, right? And so I kind of always was, not always. Sometimes I would go and convey to my teachers I recommend to anyone that's being bullied, talk to your family, talk to your friends, like talk to the teachers. I know that's stupid, but like it makes a difference. Like and the thing is a lot of times the people that are bullies are being abused themselves, it's outreach. I do this. It's not always this, but I get this done to me at home, so I'm going to do it to others. And that mentality is very dangerous, because you could still have that mentality and be 30 years old and carry this pain through everything. And for me, though, it really is after you're done hitting me or whatever it is you're trying to do to me, what do you want? And again, open that up, have those conversations. And then I would move to a new school and do it all over again. Yeah. And so I was very lucky that I never allowed people to bully me for too long.
Yeah. I wonder if you found this to be true. They say that there's a statistic. One, there's going to be 12 to 13 million students in the US bullied this year alone. And then they say the person with the most power, influence, isn't the authority figure, and it isn't the one being bullied, it's the bystander. And that if you're just watching, you're a silent supporter. Yep. So you need to be like, I don't know.
You need to engage.
Yeah.
You need to engage. No, 100. I agree with you 100% on this. We are all witnesses. As you're sitting in this audience, as you're watching this screen, you're a witness. You're witnessing us talk.
Hear it.
And what we do and what we're here for you to do is to take our knowledge and then bounce that off of everything else in your life and grow from there and to be that stronger person. But that's the gift of being a witness, is you get to witness it. You don't have to experience it. You get to experience it by second hand. But then you have an obligation as a witness, as someone that sees this to make that difference. Because you see on the news all the time of, oh yeah, we saw this happening, but we didn't really want to get involved. And there's a story I like to tell people, and I'll tell y'all. And I realized how important it is to be a witness, and why you need to sometimes step in and make that impact in other people's lives. I was in Hollywood at the Grove. I don't know if anyone's been to y'all. Have any of y'all been to the Grove in Hollywood?
It's nice.
It's nice. It's really nice, but the bathrooms kind of suck.
Yeah.
There's like this alley, and it's kind of like scooped, right? Well, I was waiting for my mother in the bathroom. I see, and it's raining, and it's really slick and stuff. And I see this elderly woman walk by, and I'm like, she's like hobbling kind of, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, yo, this girl's gonna fall. And she goes to get into the bathroom, and she falls like in the middle of everyone. Like there's probably like 40 people walking back and forth, right? And I'm not close to her, but I'm not far from her. I see it. I see her fall. I see the people around her see her fall. And I'm like, oh, someone else is going to help her. Like, I'm like, I don't need I go to kind of rush, but I don't, right? Because I'm not like, you're here. Don't get involved because you're going to get sued, right? That used to be the statement. They don't say that anymore, but they used to be that, oh, you don't want to get involved in that because you're going to get sued or whatever that may be. But I'm sitting there, and this happened very quickly, but it felt like a minute. It felt like forever. And I see her fall, and I'm seeing the people around her, and they are looking at her like this. I'm looking at her like that, and they walk away. They all kind of walk away and walk around her and step over her to go into the bathroom. And I'm just witnessing this. And I go over and I help her up, and by the time I help her up, she runs off because she's embarrassed. Like she didn't get hurt or anything. She just was like embarrassed. But after I did this and I helped her up, I noticed some of those people that kind of walked around her and kind of stepped over her, they came back, right? They were like looking for her, coming back because they wanted to actually help. But in that instant, they chose to walk away. They chose to not be involved in that. And it made me realize the importance of being a first person. The importance of being a witness, the importance of being that person that goes, okay, something needs to be done. And, we all face these moments. We all have these parts of our life where you can think back and you're like, I saw this happen. I couldn't do anything about it, but I wanted to. And in that moment, you might have been able to, but you made the decision and you're like, I'm not getting involved. And that's something that's so special in its own way, because that's when you change lives. That's when that moment happens of you're just that person. Now you're in this person's life, making an impact, being that pillar, being that support, right? And that's the role of a witness. That's the role of, you see this happening, do something.
Yeah. And someone going from being that silent supporter or quote unquote innocent bystander to being involved, to taking action. You just reminded me of a YouTube video that went viral like crazy whenever we were kids. But it's called The Battle of Kruger. And the Battle of Kruger is where there's these Cape buffalo or like water buffalo. And I think it's either in, I think it's Kenya or Uganda maybe, or sorry, Tanzania, actually wherever Kruger is. But there's the Masai Mara, there's the Serengeti, but it looked like that from thinking back on the video. And there's this little Cape buffalo, and it's a baby, and it's weaker, it's smaller, it's in the back of the pack, and a lion hits it. And there's a whole pride of lions, and they start pulling that away. Yeah. And it falls into the water. And in the water, now all of a sudden there's a lion wrestling an alligator, crocodile. Crocodile over the baby Cape buffalo. And they're just watching this. And those other Cape buffalo turned and looked, and they watched. Yeah. And they're just watching this thing about to get torn apart. Now there's 2 or 3 lions pulling and wrestling this crocodile for the baby calf. And so it wasn't until one Cape buffalo came back and was scared and timid, and you could see it thinking about it. Yeah. But it finally started coming, and all of a sudden another one came, and another one came. And then one ran through and charged it and hit it. Now all of a sudden they wrestled off the crocodile and the lions just because one did something, and it gave the encouragement to others to come along. Because in bullying, I think it's like 90 or 86% of the time. 86% of the time someone sees bullying happening, they say something as simple as, hey, that's not kind.
Yeah.
Now that
done.
normally stops that bully in the first 5-10 seconds. You had an interesting perspective because you said something about pity. You would have pity on the bullies. I've heard you say that in the past.
I have. It's the thing about this, the thing about bullying and the thing about repressing others is the mindset behind that. That's a sorry mindset. That is kind of like one of those, if you have to put your authority on other people, that's pretty pitiful. That's pretty sad that you live in a life that the only power that you could feel is overpowering a stranger. Like that's something that's kind of sad if you look at it as a whole, because that person in his daily life is having that probably done to him in some category or another. And that's the only way this dude or this girl can express themselves, and I think it's you kind of have to have a little pity and be that stronger individual that, you may not be physically stronger than them or the abilities to do whatever it is that they're saying that you can't do. Yeah, you may not be able to, but they have the abilities to do everything else and more, yet this is all they can muster. Like when you it's sometimes a waste on people, and it's sad to think about that for some time, but sometimes people waste their lives through intimidation and manipulation and just trying to overpower things that really have no intention. They have no reason to be stepping into that world, right? They have no other than malice intent. And I think to a degree, when you have bullies, I feel sorry for them. I feel sorry that's your life, that you have to do this to make you feel better, to go home to face whatever it is that you're about to go face. And I think that through compassion, compassion is a really big thing, and a very powerful tool, because you can show a little bit of compassion to someone and change their life forever. And you can show a lot of compassion to some people and it go nowhere. But I still think that if you treat everyone with compassion, no matter how poorly they're treating you, it's only going to make them madder. and I mean that you win at that point. Like maybe not physically, you may be getting beat, but if you can, I've had some of my favorite moments getting my ass whooped and still smiling, and looking back and seeing them and they're like just anger. And you're just smiling. Like it's the best way to just piss someone off. Like and like sometimes that's all you can do. And it's either way I look at life as you got two options. You can laugh or you can cry. What you gonna pick? I chose to laugh, so like
I think that's cool. Like for me, martial arts changed my life.
Yeah.
And you were a martial artist too. And so sometimes you can get in those moments where you can just embrace the pain. And I found that there's purpose in pain almost always.
Yeah.
And you can use it as fuel, or you can use it as something to complain about and be tripped up over it. So, I mean, it speaks about your character to be able to smile in a moment of
you got to.
Yeah.
One of the times I got stabbed by a roller coaster.
Stabbed by a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
It was in a bad part of town.
Okay.
No, so I was on a roller coaster ride, and I had a metal bar shoot into my arm and like 360 it and like pull a bunch of tissue out. And it was like I'm not going to name the ride because it's a very famous ride and it's still active today. And I was like the 15th person that got hurt, but I was the worst injury. And so I was in this ride and my arm hit and I was like, oh, there was a pinch there, but it's like 4 G's, right? It's like, so my adrenaline's up. I'm doing at least like 3-4 G's of centrifugal force, and the ride stops. and the velocity comes out,
Ooh.
hits the people behind me,
Uh,
and it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt at all. What hurt is when they had to dig into my elbow, and all I could do was just sit there because they can't X-ray or anything because they're like, maybe there's metal in your arm, right? So they're doing the tweezer thing and digging around in it, and all I could do was listen to comedy podcasts and just sit there and just do my best to laugh.
yeah. What's one of your favorite comedy podcasts?
Oh,
A lot of podcast listeners in the room.
Well,
Several podcasters.
well, why you gotta put me on the spot like
That's
this?
okay. You listen to Rogan?
I listen to
Tim
Rogan.
Dillon?
I listen to Rogan. I listen to I listen to the Laugh Factory has a podcast. Listen to a few comedy stuff. Random stuff on Spotify, you know.
For sure.
Yeah.
Amy's been quiet back there. Normally I have her involved in almost every episode. Are you able to speak from back there? What's that?
What?
Are you back there?
I am back here.
Did you have anything for that's come up during this conversation for RJ?
A couple things. Yeah. I really liked when you talked about your therapy and folding the towels, because I think we overlook like simple ways to do things so many times, even just compassion and stuff, it's like we can keep things pretty simple.
Yeah.
And that just struck me. I thought that was really beautiful how you did that. And so that's not even a question. I just do you find that in your daily life, like different ways to just simplify things to?
Yeah. Like even right now, like my posture, my hands, like how I hold my hands. So my CP, I don't really, mostly now affects my my left hand. So like got this. I mean, I can, if I think about it, it's a little stiff, but like I can work it, and my feet will kind of, when I'm really tired, my feet will want to drag and stuff, and I gotta pick them up. I'll sometimes wear heavier shoes, like heavier stuff that like not just not like weights or anything, but just heavier garments to make it where my body has to kind of use like extra weight to think about it. Talking to you now, like diction and having the phonetics to be able to like sound elegant and proper and not throwing y'alls in there. And
you can throw y'alls in there.
We're in Austin, Texas. You can say all y'all.
All y'all.
Started off.
Well, it sounds like a lot. That sounds like a lot to be conscious of all the time.
So I guess
you get used to it.
But you get used to it, and you learn how to be conscious in your daily life. And this isn't just, I learned it from having CP, right? But I think it's something that we should all be more conscious of, is our body and the awareness of our body, because your body says a lot of things to you that you don't really know about. When you're sick, you're like, oh, I feel like this. But like if your abdomen and your legs or your joints or whatever it may be, those actually can mean very specific things. We have doctors in the room, right? That know if you're talking about certain things, that can probably only be one thing that's happening to you. I mean, there's millions of things, but specifically like certain things. So if you're listening to your body and you're conscious of your body, you can really hear what your body needs. And your brain doesn't always tell you what you need. Your brain tells you what you want. Your body will tell you need water. You need food. You need this. You need that. Or you are going to die. Like we have these things that we don't think of. And normally, most people are like, when they open a door, right? You just open the door. You just walk through it. For me, I have to grab the door, open the door, and then go through it. So it's that conscious effort, because my brain and my body are kind of individualized. But But that's actually a lot more common than most people realize of this disconnection. But we just go through these habits, and our daily regimen is a habit. Our way that we drive is a habit. Like we have these things that are just naturally occurring in our everyday life that are posture is a great example of how you sit. Not changing gotta switch it up. Posture is a great example of reading, and as an actor, our job is to read body language, right? But so how you hold yourself, how you place your feet, how you do this, what makes the psychology about it is the habit of how you hold your body. And so being conscious of these things, we can work on making our body stronger, making our mind stronger. And, it's very simple, like folding towels. One of the other things was I would do grains of rice and knead my hands in rice because it was easy to grab, and you could work all the dexterity in your fingers out. Pasta, hot and cold noodles to get different sensations through the nerves. Putting a key in a door. We take that for granted, but there are people that can't. Like that's actually like a thing that to put a key in a door, it takes fine and gross motor skills, it takes hand-eye coordination, and it takes physical attributes, because you got to pull the key, you got to find the key, you got to stick the key in and turn it, and then turn the handle and pull the door. So in that itself has a lot of therapy, but we do it every day. What would make that so special? What would make that unique? Finding someone who can't and working on that. One of the things that we work with, one of the organizations, we work on getting people self-sufficient. One of the groups I work with is what is, you're a 22-year-old kid with a disability who's never lived by himself, who's always been at home, who lives at home. What do you want to do? You want to go live in your own house. You want to go live in your own apartment. You want to be able to go to school and not have your mom there, not have your dad there, or have a group of nurses following you, right? You want to be able to live your own life. And so how do you do that? By training kids and really by 14, 13 years old, training them how to get through the door, how to maneuver their chairs, how to get in and out of their chair, how to do things that they're going to have to do on their own eventually. You start young, and by the time they're at the age to be able to do it, they can live independently. A lot of people don't get that luxury. A lot of people don't get that training, and a lot of families don't see how simple it is to do that, because a lot of people want to provide for their kid, right? You have a kid in a chair, you're like, you want to make sure that he has or she has the best way, right? To go through anything. So a lot of times people overcompensate, and then we get complacent, and we allow our disability or whatever physical challenge may be to overpower that. And sometimes we just need to let, from a distance, watch, but let them figure out how to maneuver their life. And that could be very simple things.
I love that. We lose sight of it and can lose sight of being present, and just like all the simple things that we can do.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful.
I'm really inspired by who you are, just the man that you are, because of how you have had a mindset from early on, and maybe some of the family foundation, just wanting to help others. And I've heard you say it before, like life's a fight, life's a fight. And for the best fighters, they always have a great game plan, and so to find the best coaching or therapy or
I'm just swinging for the fences.
Swing for the fences. Bite down on the mouthpiece.
Just
swing for the fences.
Meleeing it. Going for the ear.
Hope you land right on the button.
Yeah.
Well, that actually gives me a great segue. I might have, if we have a mic that could pick up someone in the audience, I might have someone share something because we are swinging for the fences this weekend. And I wanted to share this story with the room, but I really want you to be able to hear it. There's a doctor in the room, Dr. Dave Frank, and from Walden Dental here in Austin. There's also a great friend of mine named Chris Murphy. And I'll be sharing this story on my podcast, maybe in more depth sometime soon. But I'm trying to see because the light's on me. Do we have a mic over there right by Dave? Actually, who should we start with? I think maybe we start with Chris. Chris is the guy I met at On It. But Chris, how did we get put in touch? And this is pretty surreal for me. I'm just making the connection with some of your struggles in the movie that he was. I mean, the TV show, the series. Yeah. I mean, you and I both, Chris, have struggled with addiction.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was a fan of yours well before the Rogan podcast, but I guess the way we really got connected was Justin's most recent podcast on Rogan. I was actually walking to go take my life. Luckily, I didn't attempt it. But I was on the Brooklyn Bridge ready to jump off. And through that episode, I decided to not. And I messaged Justin when I was 1,500 miles away in Manhattan while I was taking an ice bath at Amy's. And he actually stopped and shouted out my name, which I couldn't believe. And I thought that would be the end of it. But about 2.5 weeks into me living in Austin, he walked by me at a group workout we all do together.
Well, just from my perspective, there, I was working out. We were all exhausted. It was a hard workout that day On It, who sponsors this podcast. But I heard feet running up on me, and so I turn around and look, and it's Chris running up, and he gives me the biggest, sweatiest, longest hug, and I was there for it. But it was long and it was sweaty. But
you're welcome.
But thank you. All of a sudden, I heard, I'm the guy. And I think I told you what I said.
Elaborate.
Yeah. You got to help me out there, buddy. Elaborate for me. What's that mean? And you said the Brooklyn Bridge, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, because I knew what that meant. He'd literally walked 100 blocks from 100th to the Brooklyn Bridge.
106 to the Brooklyn Bridge. So 106 blocks down and then cross town.
And when you say you were thinking about it, like you went in January in short sleeves, because if the fall didn't kill you, the cold water would. And you actually were up on, you had thought about or got up on the planks. Is that right? I
didn't walk across the actual metal beam across the cars. If anyone knows the Brooklyn Bridge, you got to walk across a metal beam, stand on the edge and go. But I had stood up on the metal beam. I hadn't made my way across the street.
Yeah. And so, man, whenever he reached out, because you had said that earlier, whenever you're at the school, someone maybe have told you that they were suicidal. Man, to actually, for just from my perspective, like you never know the person that you're going to impact, or sometimes you don't get the opportunity like we have to be able to meet some of those. When I was on Rogan's show, I was thinking like, oh man, abort mission, like abort. Like I wanted to go on there and be authentic, genuine. This was my 9th time on the show. And I was thinking like, I've got to share the darkest time of my life. For just some reason, I felt prompted to do that. And then as I started doing it, the, angel on my shoulder saying, if it's just for one person, but the devil on my shoulder saying, backpedal, stop. Yeah. Joe's a donor. He's a friend. These are going out to a lot of people. But I just thought like, if you could just help one person. So I got to tell Chris like, man, you're my one. You're the one person that I was hoping that this would impact. But the story goes on beyond that because Chris, thank you so much for sharing. I'm really glad you're here. Same. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad we've all overcome that. Yeah, we can. But then Jason, I don't know if Jason's in the room, but Jason is actually. Grab the mic real quick. I went into a drug rehabilitation center the very next day. All right. And I share my story, and you think, is this going to matter? Is it going to help somebody? Yeah. And there's a videographer there for the rehab, Recovery Unplugged, and you came up to me almost like, would you say almost like Chris did? You ran up on me?
Oh, probably a little bit faster because so
Hold that up to your mouth just for the listeners.
So Justin was telling his story, and then he was talking about Chris at our treatment center, Recovery Unplugged here in Austin. And a couple of days before that, I got together with Dr. Frank here, and we kind of wanted to get together and help people in recovery. And he was going to do my teeth because I have some issues, but he was just like, no, man, let's find somebody who really, really needs it. And I was just like, okay. So we just started doing some work. We didn't know how this was going to turn up. And then I wasn't even supposed to go to work that day. And then Ryan Spencer, who works for Recovery Unplugged as well, called me. He's like, Justin Wren's going to be here speaking for the clients. Can you come in, bring your camera? And I was like, dude, just put up a fucking iPhone. You know what I mean? Like, do you really need me to come and bring like the 4K camera? He's just like, dude. And I'm like, you know what? Fine. Yeah, I'll come. Cause then I heard it was you and I was like, yeah, cool. I'll come. So I get there and you're telling the story and then somebody starts talking about his yesterday. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
And then
then thinking about vulnerability and synchronicity, he wanted to be an MMA fighter. And then all of a sudden the next day, he got vulnerable the day before. The next day, I'm in there with my boxing coach, my sponsor, my sparring partner, who's also in recovery.
Yes.
And then he heard about synchronicities that day.
Yeah, and Black Sheep was a huge part of putting this whole thing together too,
Yeah.
Black Sheep Boxing. So, so then he
And that
starts.
spurred me talking about Chris because I
Yeah.
wasn't going to just share Chris's story.
So then he starts talking about Chris, and then he's telling the whole thing, and then he tells the story about him getting his teeth knocked out, and I'm just like, I think I got to check the footage, but I think you hear me behind the camera go, and then like I look at you and I'm just like, oh my God, okay, I need to talk to this guy afterwards. I need to talk to this guy afterwards. So then you tell the story, and then of course everything ends and everybody crowds around you and needs to talk to you for a few minutes. And I get that they're the clients, it's all about them. So I'm like, I felt like Rocky and Adrian after the fight in the first one when I'm like trying to get to you, but all these people, and then I get pulled away for some work stuff. And then I'm like, okay. And then I see out the window, you're almost at your car. And I'm like, hauling ass behind you. I'm like, hey, and so out of breath by the time I get to you. I'm just like, did he get his teeth back? And you're just like, what? Dude, you got to give me more. And I'm just like, 1 second. Did that kid Chris get his teeth done yet? And you're just like, no, that just happened. And then I was like, me and Dr. Frank were that's how quick I got my breath back. Me and Dr. Frank were just talking about like trying to help somebody out who really, really needed it. And I called Dr. Frank. I'm like, give me 1 second. Let me call Dr. Frank just to see if it's cool. Cause the last thing I want to do is fill somebody with false promise or hope,
Right.
So I called Dr. Frank, who usually is a really hard guy to get a hold of. And he picked up the phone and I'm just like, I think I found the guy. And he was like, all right, so let's get this thing moving. And
yeah, well, it's been incredible to see because this has been a joint effort from so many different people. And what's crazy is Dr. Frank, I want you to share real quick. And then but I have a message somewhere. Actually, I'm losing it. But there was the message that I sent to all my friends because we wanted to surprise Chris, and we decided to do it at a workout where Chris and I had met. And the workout is a beast of a workout, but we invited Dr. Dave because he's an Ironman athlete, so I could kind of disguise him in there, bring him in there. And I had them actually pair up and work out together. Dr. Frank was holding Chris's ankles while he's doing push-ups. He doesn't even know he's about to get some dental work just gifted to him in a donation. Awesome. Yeah, Dr. Frank.
It was a long 72 hours with this project here and how to get it together with going through the workout. And then, Chris not only doing the workout, but then having to be the patient to go through 15, 16, 17, 18 hours of dental treatment over the course of 2 days. I mean, there were plenty of moments where I felt like I needed to stop on his behalf, but to get that all completed, the concept of all of this working together, I never thought that I would be sitting here today in front of any of you, and how much I've been inspired over the last, number of weeks here as I've gotten to know Justin a little bit better. But there was a really important message in this podcast about why I want to do this larger project of helping those recover and getting their dignity back. And it was what was said by Mr. Mitte here on the catastrophic loss of community. What happens to why we're homeless? What happens to why we're in drug addiction? And for all the Austinites in here, May 11th was a big day of when we went to vote about what to do with basically urban camping. And there's a lot of Austinites that were complaining about this, but we're not doing anything really about it. And we're waiting for either the local or state or federal government to somehow eradicate all these issues. It's not going to happen. And, when you have that catastrophic loss of community, you need something to reach out to. We're all social animals. And you made such a clear point of like, even though this community may be killing me, at least it's something I have. And what we're trying to create also with Recovery Unplugged and with my abilities as a dentist of when we can catch those people to say, hey, maybe this community I'm with right now isn't the healthiest thing for me. I want to come back to normal society. Well, a lot of us in here, whether or not we know it and whether or not we would admit to it, we are kind of bullies to those that are going through recovery because you look a certain way. We want to be able to re-indoctrinate ourselves back into society. But if you have all of these stigmas and all of these scars of your past life, despite the fact that you want to be recovered, the normal, society is not going to be welcoming you with open arms. And when you want to go for that first job interview again, when you want to have that presentable look and you have these scars and underneath your lips and behind your lips, I totally understand why you don't want to lose that one community that won't judge you. So go ahead.
I was going to say, you really, it hit me. Well, one, I probably didn't do Chris's story justice whenever it's like, this guy worked on Wall Street. He had lost some teeth in addiction after he lost his job and COVID hit and all these things, but he also got jumped by 7 guys and a baseball bat to his face a couple times. Was it metal baseball bat? Yeah. And he was in ICU, and we've seen those reports. And after seeing Chris, when I met him on his first day, my first day seeing him at the gym, it was you're 1 month sober the very next day. I got to watch him progress and him wanting it and us working out together side by side. And Dr. Frank, as I met him, he had told me something that could probably relate even to Breaking Bad, but remember the bike, the color of the bike, bicycle. Yes. Can you share that?
So this was when I was looking to purchase one of my first, road bikes when I was getting to like triathlon of training and racing. There was a color of a bike at one of these bike shops. And this was actually in Fort Worth at the time. And the color of the bike was referenced as meth mouth green.
Yeah.
to where that effect, that what that drug can do to you and what can do to the teeth, and maybe not even so much that drug, it's the life that comes with the drug, and how quickly it can rot things away. And I guess to come back full circle on the silver lining of what I'm sitting right here next to with Chris, when I first met Chris on Thursday, I had no idea what to expect with his teeth. And in the beginning, when we the show was, the workout was wrapping up and I could finally expose who I actually was. And then we were in Lady Bird Lake, it felt like 50 of us there. And I pulled Chris aside a little bit. I said, hey, could you just open for me just so I could know what I was getting into? And at that moment, I had a real pucker moment of like, oh, can I really pull this off here? And to do this all in 2 days and to do this on camera with the 5 or 6 cameras in there the whole time in this 10 by 10 operatory. And when you're talking about perseverance, and this has been a huge life changing moment for me, as far as, being able to do that type of dentistry and all these moments where I'm like, why do I keep going all these courses? Why do I keep doing all of these things? And to put all of that together in that span of a short time, Chris looks like a totally different person. I can't recognize the two people from what I met on Thursday to what I'm sitting next to here today.
Yeah, he had 9 teeth.
And it's just-
congratulations, Chris.
Unbelievable, Chris.
He got 60. I think at least $60,000 worth of dental work in 2 days. 18, 19.
I feel you. I had 14 root canals done over 2 days.
Wow.
That was miserable. I took a I took a medication
Who's that dentist?
that hollowed my teeth out. And so, but you know, the power of a smile, I don't, people really take it for granted. And as you're talking about when you're going into that work, and not just drugs, but just in general, the power of like, of your teeth, your smile, like having that, makes a really big difference in your everyday life. And you know, when you see it, like when you're able to feel yourself and look yourself in the mirror and smile, because like sometimes a lot of people don't like what they see, and it's not because of anything other than just sometimes people just don't brush their teeth. Sometimes you just don't have that regular grooming, and we take that for granted sometimes. And I if you ask my family will tell me my feet stink all the time. They're like, yo, you gotta fix that. And like it's true, and they build that that like, yo, I'm not gonna take my shoes off in here because it's gonna knock everyone out. But like when you're able to like smile and be comfortable with it, and it changes your life. It changes everything about you and how you're perceived. And we see ourselves from one side of a coin, but you see the other side of the coin. And being able to provide that opportunity, it's life-changing things. And I'm very happy to be here today to see that not just you're affecting one lives, but many lives, and everyone who's watching. And I'm very honored to be here.
Yeah. We really appreciate you being here. And we had talked about doing a quick Q&A with you, but maybe if someone has like at AA meetings, sometimes we call it a burning desire. If anyone has like this question that you just really wanted to ask RJ, maybe you could just grab the mic or someone hand it over to him, and we could ask him one question before we end up wrapping up.
But man, I'll tell you, how was that 2 days of dentistry?
Yeah. Actually, I did want to say something to you, RJ.
Here you go, Chris.
Yeah. But I didn't want to keep going.
No, you're good.
But that catastrophic loss of community. This morning was my first time, you know, that workout at On It, and sometimes at Zilker Park. It's, you know, it's pretty much a lot of Greek gods. There's a lot of beautiful people in here. And I can tell you that if I hadn't had this done, the entire time my head would be down. I wouldn't have spoken to anyone as I did before. I wouldn't have met anyone cool. Over the past 3 days alone, I've had 5 people reach out to me, both from the workout and one from Black Sheep Boxing, that are like, hey man, not only can I relate to you, but you just, you know, I want to get some coffee with you and you elaborate more so you can help me because I'm struggling myself. And I would have never had the guts to stand in a ring next to Justin and speak like that. And, you know, this morning for the first time going to the gym, I had a smile on walking around the whole place. Every person I met was like, okay, so this guy's out of his mind, but it's just because I'm cheesing everywhere I go. But you're right, man. You know, and I really appreciate everything you said. You said a lot of powerful stuff, and you are a true overcomer, man, because that mental mind state, the way that you carried yourself through life, that was incredible. So it's not really a question, but you gave me a lot of strength today. So thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. You know,
Chris, I before we go, I'm really proud of you, Chris. I am. You look like a new man. Amy said you were handsome, and you are. You know, when I met you, you did have two top teeth and 3 bottom teeth, but you had 9 knocked out by that baseball bat. And this transformation is one of the most radical medical miracle, modern day medical miracle to me. Seeing that in front of my eyes, seeing the employees getting off work and coming back with their children just so they could see the reveal of his smile, and them crying. And Angela from Venezuela, who I nicknamed Michelangela because she was sculpting the teeth and crying as she was doing it. It was one of the most really cool moments to be part of. Also, Raiden, you being here for my podcast launch, Justin Brown, all you guys being here, and us being able to support you, RJ, and you encouraging us. Like, you're an inspiration, my man.
Oh, it's a pleasure. What we're trying to do is just exactly what y'all are all trying to do. And that's just be able to take day by day and enjoy our days, enjoy what we have. And, we're very lucky in our positions to be able to have people like you that feel inspired, that feel that they can take what we have and the knowledge that we're trying to give and grow from that. And hopefully, like in the future, surpass what we do, grow past what we were able to give y'all and have the conversation with, and really be able to make this world a better place, because we need people like you. We need people with this mentality. There's a lot of people in this world that live a very sheltered life, and I'm excuse me. I feel what we have, and some people say it's damaged, but it's actually knowledge, it's power, and these types of experiences, for better or worse, that molded us, that put us in the position of whatever it may be, again, positive or negative. That type of insight, that type of awareness, and that type of willingness to have the outreach. And because you're not just gonna leave here today and it's just gonna be you. You're gonna leave here with your family and your community, and by all of us being a witness, you're going to find that person that was you a year ago, that was you 5 years ago, and your experience is gonna be like, I recognize this person and I know what to do to change that. So. It's great to be, again, it's great to be here.
I love that. Thank you so much. Yeah. If we can just impact people to where our ceiling becomes their floor.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a way to do it. And so
it's a hope.
It's a hope. Yeah. And man, I appreciate you guys for being here. Let's all thank RJ for being here today. And thank you guys all for being here today. We have plenty of On It supplements at the end, out there in the mocktails. Thank you, Hot Pie Media, for sponsoring this event, so that any donations 100% go to the cause. If you like this podcast, you can like it, follow it, subscribe, rate, review. That will help this grow. This is our launch day and our first ever live recording, learning on the go.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate everyone so much. Amy, do you have anything?
Yeah, I just wanted everybody to maybe take a breath for a second and just send a good collective energy to what Justin's trying to do. His goal is to have the most meaningful podcast in the world. And I just feel it. And if we can all just imagine that, because just like RJ just said, we're lifting up these stories, like your story, Justin's story, Chris's story. These stories are so important, and it can surpass us. If we keep putting these things out in the world like you are, Justin, if we keep doing that, it can make the world a better place, just like RJ just said, and, I just wanted to emphasize that and say, you're doing a really great thing, Justin. And if we can all just put our energy toward that, I think that's a really beautiful thing. So please do share it too with friends, or let people know that this is something good that we're putting out in the world, and hit it with a hashtag Overcome with Justin Wren, and just keep it growing.
Yeah. Thank you so much, babe. I love you.
I love you too.
And my mom and grandma's here. I think we'll have
on it, babe.
we'll have a little. I didn't hear that part.
I just said thanks for having me on it.
Yeah,
too.
Absolutely. I couldn't have a better producer. And yeah, we're gonna have a little. We have to be out of here at 3, so we got 30 minutes to hang out. And so no rush. But for anyone listening, you have overcome 100% of your darkest days. Now it's your opportunity to go shine that light and share that love that you have inside of you. Thanks so much. Rise up, overcome. Thanks for being here. Yeah. Whoa. Whoa. RJ Mitte. What a man. What an inspiration. I mean, for someone with cerebral palsy to I mean, we didn't bring up the picture that I had queued up there live, but the picture of him with all the supermodels, him with his shirt off, hair flowing, looking like a rock star. But that's who that guy is, to inspire so many, whether it's people who have cerebral palsy or if it's people that, you know, he's done stuff at the Paralympics, commentating, promoting. But I think we could relate RJ to also our first guest, Nick Santanastasso, who says, if you haven't heard that episode, please go watch it. Our first one we ever released. You know, the greatest disability is a bad mindset. And both these guys embody the type of person that it takes to overcome daily obstacles. The therapy that he would go through that would be painful, in having to try to do physical therapy on his feet just so that he would be able to walk, you know, that is an incredible feat. And that's an incredible feat.
I know.
Oh, feet. Yeah. He's got incredible feet, but it is an incredible human feat to be able to become such a high caliber actor. Whenever he's having to, you know, what we're hearing, he thought about 10 seconds earlier.
Yeah.
5-10 seconds earlier. So he is orchestrating that in his mind, which is another thing that the average person doesn't have to deal with, but he does on a daily. And what an inspiring guest. What a incredibly funny guest to be able to make pretty much everything funny.
I think he said something about that being your options. You know, you can be serious or like lighten up. And I agree with that.
And to have the skill that he has in the episodes of such a heavy series in Breaking Bad and some of the other shows, the movie Oak Room or The Oak Room, and to be able to go to the depths of that well it takes to express that human emotion of pain, of suffering, of anger, but to be as lighthearted and funny as he is. I mean, that's a wide range. That's a skill. That's a talent. I think it goes to exemplify or highlight the kind of person that he is. So I hope that you were inspired on this episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good overcomer trait, you know, letting it roll off you.
Yeah.
And being able to laugh and being able to look at those bullies or look at those people that were mean or gave you a hard time and being able to just feel sorry for them, essentially, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. You got to roll with the punches.
Yeah.
You got to be able to roll with the punches because life is going to hit you in the face sometimes. And not always. And you can bob, weave, you can counterattack sometimes, but sometimes you're going to be knocked to the canvas and you got to get back up. You can choose to stay there. You can rise and overcome. And so that's what RJ has done time and time and time again. And that is what you can do time and time again. I don't know what you're facing. I don't know if you're in your darkest days right now, but you have overcome 100% of your darkest days and the best is yet to come. This is just the tip of the iceberg and a great life is awaiting you. We have some things in-house. We have this incredible art that my friend Doug drove down from Boston, Massachusetts to Austin, Texas.
He sure did.
From Boston to Austin just to deliver this so that I can be inspired and that I can invite Mike Tyson onto this show. I've been on Mike's Hot Boxing and we had a very emotional, heavy podcast together. I shared about bullying. He shared about bullying.
Had you met him before you went on that show?
We had been in the same, I think briefly. Yes, briefly, but never went deep. You know, we were never in an environment where we could actually talk about life. And we did. And I had an incredible response from that. I still get messages 2 years later that I think I got one literally a couple days ago that someone found my story through Hotboxing.
So cool.
And so Doug said, what if we use this painting? Because Doug has a crazy following on
TikTok. He's at Doug Does Art.
Yeah.
DOUG Does Art.
He is the person, and you as well, Amy, encouraged me to get on TikTok. I think I've posted twice on there. And
So
it's just
far,
been
you posted
clips.
twice. That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're on TikTok at Overcome Podcast?
Overcome Podcast.
I'm at the Magic Babe,
Yeah.
if you want to find me. But yeah.
But Doug,
Overcome Podcast, you're coming along. You know,
well,
I bet you'll get a lot more now.
Sure. Well, that's fine with me. Doug wanted me to start it so that he could post the video of him painting this
Pointillism. He does.
pointillism, and to be able to invite Mike Tyson on the show. And the idea behind this painting is we're going to scratch off part of the points so that Mike can sign it when he's here in studio with us. And I'm at least extending the invitation. And Doug's TikTok, some of his videos have 68 million views or
It's
27 million views.
His most recent one, at least when I'm looking at it right now has 18.6. Like, it's crazy.
18.6 million?
Wait, oh no,
That
that's
is
1,000.
wild.
I can't read.
No, that's fine.
No, but here's one right here with 5.3 million. I mean,
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's
Doug
incredibly
does
inspiring.
art. He has 1.4 million followers on TikTok.
Yeah,
Doug
it's-
Montiero.
It's really cool to watch Doug do what he does. And for him to come to my boxing gym, do it in the ring, and let me invite Mike on, and him promoting that on his big platform.
And he was a really
I'm
cool
humbled.
guy. He
Yeah.
wrote us an email,
What do
actually,
you say?
to our email, overcomepodcast@gmail.
I have not read it, so
I
please
will
read it to us.
I will read it to you. Okay, here he goes. Hey, growing up training jujitsu and being in a gym, Mike Tyson was always a recognizable name and face. After listening to Justin Wren's podcast on Hotboxing with Mike Tyson, I really connected with Justin's story and recognized him as an avenue to create change.
Wow.
I chose to create
Thanks.
the painting so that it can hopefully raise money to make a difference and reach people in need in a way that I may not be able to do on my own. I connect with the Fight for the Forgotten charity and wanted to be part of something bigger than myself. One of my main goals with my art is to influence change and better the world for others. As we always say in our house, if you don't know what to do, find a need and fill it. Art is something that has been a skill of mine for as long as I can remember. After graduating from college, I made the choice to help my dad create and build a landscape business. It was something I felt I needed to do for my family. We immigrated to the United States from Brazil when I was 7. And since then, it's really been my job to guide my family and help them navigate the United States and the language. This is really the experience of a lot of immigrant children. We become the foundation of our family, and it's a blessing and a hardship.
Wow.
About a year and a half ago, I made the choice to leave the business that I created with my dad and become an artist. There was a lot of fear around the choice, fear of disappointing them, fear of not being good enough, fear of rejection. The fear has been something that's always held me back. But I was done backing down from fear and chose to follow my own dreams. Much to my surprise, I was completely supported by everybody closest to me. Overcoming the fear really allowed me to meet my most authentic self and recognize myself as an individual. Now I want to show others how to do that and encourage growth and strength through my art. Listening to Nick's story on the first episode of the podcast was so powerful. Even though our stories are so different, I saw so many similarities in the strength it takes to overcome impossible situations and the resilience that it's required to move through life. It was an inspiring story, and I look forward to hearing more stories about humanity, grace, and strength through the Overcome podcast. Best, Doug.
Wow.
I know.
What a man.
I know.
What a man to come down from Austin
Drive
or
down.
Boston to
With his
Austin.
girlfriend.
Drive. Yeah.
I can't think of her name. But
And
she
she was
a doll.
amazing. And
Yeah.
for them to be in the ring painting this, and then to send that follow-up email and acknowledge the podcast, but also let's acknowledge him real quick.
Yeah.
Because to be a child of an immigrant, you know, when you're young, you're able to learn languages quick. You know that with Gigi.
Yeah.
Gigi's learning languages and
daughter's-
fluent in French, and she's 12.
Mm-hmm.
And for that burden to be put on a child too. I mean, not that the parents are trying to put a burden on them. They're giving their whole family an opportunity, but it does put a lot of weight on a child, and it's a burden. And for him to overcome and to be part of a family business, I know what that's like. I had to leave an opportunity for my parents' business, my mom and dad's. At least that's what they wanted for me. At least my dad for sure. But I had to overcome fear and say, this is what I'm going to do.
Pursue your own path.
Yeah. And to see
It's
him
really
do
hard
it,
to do when you have to break out family expectations.
Yeah.
And I know with an immigrant family, sometimes
Yeah.
those are Very, very strong.
Yeah, especially from South America, Brazil, and families tight knit.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what our family does.
Yeah.
And now Doug does art, right?
Right.
And I'm proud of him. And I know his family's proud of him seeing those videos blow up. And for him to want to use art to inspire, I think that's what artists do, whether it's the musicians we know that were in our ice baths today, or, Doug and the art he's doing. If you heard that was my cap on my water bottle. But he's really inspiring to me. And I'm really grateful that my story impacted him on hotboxing. I'm even more grateful that he's resonated with the Fight for the Forgotten story. And my goal,
the stories that you're sharing on this podcast.
That's what I was going to say. My goal with this is to make this the most meaningful podcast in the world. We're going to get there. And it takes a tribe. It takes support from people like Doug, from the listeners, and from the guests that are going to come bring their best and lay it all out there and have their, chin up, shoulders back, heart forward, even sharing some of the toughest times of their life so that we can all know we can overcome.
I think it already is the most meaningful podcast in the world. So there
we go. You put it all out there.
That's right.
And we're going to get there with the help of these listeners. So please leave us a review on Apple Podcast. Follow us, subscribe, because that helps this podcast grow. We're
I think
really
it's called
grateful.
Follow now. I don't think they do subscribe anymore. Yeah, even on Apple, it's called Follow now. So follow us on whatever podcast platform you listen to. Please rate, review, subscribe. That all makes a huge difference. And share.
Yeah, if you share these out on social media and you tag me at the Big Pygmy or Amy at Real Amy Edwards. Mm-hmm. We'll make sure that we reshare what you share.
Yeah.
Because that helps us grow and helps us grow the impact of this podcast.
Yeah. And actually there's an Instagram for it that we just have, we're using. It's Overcome Podcast.
Is it Overcome with Justin Wren?
Overcome with Justin Wren.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, it's Overcome with Justin Wren on Instagram. And then if you want to write to us, write to us. I've gotten a few people writing to us, but when you write to us, they didn't tell us the story. They're like, I have a story to share. And I'm like, great. And then they don't put it in there. So we'd love to be able to read your story. So, feel free to write us if you have an Overcome story and share it with us. Tell us and send it to overcomepodcast@gmail.com.
Well, Doug Does Art was a perfect example.
Perfect example.
With his email and Hickory Tree Farms Apiaries, however you say that, and them donating 10% to Fight for the Forgotten.
So badass.
You don't have to be a donor of ours to write in a story.
No.
That's not who we're giving.
No, we just want to hear your inspirational story.
Yeah, we do.
100%.
And what you've had to overcome. And that charges us up, you and me, Amy, but any of the listeners. And so that's why we want to share your story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do we have any other news? We want to Fight Club news?
So Fight for the Forgotten. We have a Fight Club, our monthly giving club. First rule of Fight Club is that you do speak about Fight Club. Not that you don't. It's a play on the movie, but we have, if they haven't seen it, some people might not have seen it, but you need to watch it because their first rule is you don't speak about Fight Club. But, I really am grateful for our monthly donors because that helps us grow in sustainability and know our budget for projects like drilling wells. And for making stateside impact here and building homes over in Uganda. And one day we will be in all 8 or 9 African nations that the Pygmy tribe is in that I got the pleasure to live with and understand their suffering firsthand and their obstacles or challenges.
Can I just interject that I just started reading your book, Fight for the Forgotten, which probably a ton of your fans listening have read. I have not. It's been out, since 2015? Is that when it came out? I looked at the copyright. I think that was right. It's really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to read it like I was talking to people, like it was a conversation.
Yeah, it's great. But it talks a lot about your life with the Pygmies and how it impacted you and just how it all came about in case people are wondering that.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for plugging that. And
you're welcome.
Also, I put in there my story with bullying, my story with addiction, my story with suicide, and malaria, all sorts of things, challenges, but also some really incredible, inspiring stories along the way of people who helped me And these little, I call them God winks, these little moments in the universe that help you along the way, that if I didn't meet this person, this wouldn't have happened. And if this miracle of the day, of the week, of the year, Fight for the Forgotten wouldn't exist. And I do want to thank people who have donated. We've had thousands of donors from all 50 states, from 60 different countries. This is becoming a worldwide movement of supporters. And now our ask is just that you join the Fight Club, because, the subscription-based model, it works, and charities are starting to do it. They're starting to catch on. If we get people donating $5 a month, $50 a month, $10 a month, that makes us able to grow our impact. This world needs it.
And it feels good to give.
It does. I know I run the nonprofit, but I'm the founder, but it truly is. My life is so much better that I give. So now I live to give. I live to love.
Well, you give to me all the time too. Thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And then, just in final words, thank you, Hot Pie, for sponsoring this live recording, because it wouldn't have been possible without you. And because of that, we raised over $5,000.
Boom.
Yeah, boom. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the listeners. Thank you to RJ, who made this episode possible. And thank you for everyone that traveled in from out of town. And we scrunched you in there like a bunch of sardines. And it worked. And people were on meditation pillows the whole time, over 2 hours. And we love you guys for doing that. Please, go out. Know that you can rise up, overcome. You have survived, overcame 100% of your darkest days. And so go out there with your heart forward. Have some tough skin, but keep a soft heart, soft, open heart. We love you. Thank you for being here. And please join us next week as well.
Tonight, we are hearing from the parents of the young Yukon boy with special needs seen getting beat up by classmates.
His name is Raiden Overbay, 12-year-old kid. He's autistic, viciously bullied, suffered a concussion. Justin came to the rescue.
I grew up getting bullied myself. I sat at the lunch table by myself, and you pelt in the back of the head with chocolate milk spit wads or food or fist. I just know what it's like to be in Raiden's shoes.
What's happening, buddy?
I'm fixing to talk to them. Yeah, in the state earlier.
Ready? Everybody? Raiden, I love you. Hey, smile.
Raiden, what you really have become is an ambassador for this message of anti-bullying and how important it is that people have some compassion.
Who were some of the actors and actresses and athletes that made you videos?
AJ Styles, Grant Gustin.
Grant Gustin plays Barry Allen in what?
The Flash.
Is that your favorite show?
Yeah. Terry Crews.
Terry Crews, that's awesome.
All saying that they stand with Raiden.
All the kids that were involved, my wife and I, we forgive the kids for what they did. They made a huge mistake, but they've got time to grow and learn from it.
It just goes to show there's a lot of kids that need a lot of help.
Yeah, like everybody you saw there, we stand with Raiden, so take care.
The things that you get bullied for are also the things that are the keys to your success. You feel like something's wrong with you, something's wrong with the way I am. And I'm here to tell you, man, you, sir, are a champion.
You're gonna be on SEAL team yet? What's a regular breakfast for you? Eggs, you have cereal?
Yeah, pretty much
eggs. What's a go-to lunch for you? Sandwich?
Anything that's there.
Okay.
This one's my chip guy. This one's my
You
sweet.
like good the chips?
He's the chips. He's the...
Okay. How much you working out? Are you guys playing sports after school?
I do gym.
You do the gym? Okay. I want to build your food program, and you try to stick to that as best you can. I know you're in school. I know it's hard.
Because you're already so big and strong, you'll be superhero.
Basically, what's going to happen is you're going to get rid of all this, and you're going to turn into
Look
that.
at this guy.
That seems simple.
And then you'll be on SEAL Team Season 8.
Season 8. Syndicated.
It'll be great. I know the owner of the company, Redcon, Aaron. He sent me to send you this message.
Hi, Raiden. I'm Aaron Singerman, CEO of Redcon. In an effort to help you continue to build your strength and build your muscle, Isotope, our whey protein isolate. I'm going to give you a year supply of Isotope. I'm also going to give you the year supply of our MRE Light, which is our animal-based protein. I stand with Raiden.
Nice. Is that dope?
That's awesome.
There you go, brother.
Hook it up.
There you go. And it's going to be enough here for the whole
I'll make sure I put a protein shake in there.
There you go. You have that shake every day now.
Raiden, what's going on, buddy? It's Dean Cain. Listen, bullying,
Bullying is a horrible thing, and the people who are bullies, they tend to be the biggest cowards of them all. I don't stand for bullying. None of my friends stand for bullying, but I'll stand with you, Raiden. I stand with you. Keep your head up high. There's lots of people who stand on your side, and we'll be there for you, buddy.
What's happening?
We're about to go meet the SEAL team cast. I'm Tony. Good to meet you. So good to meet you.
Hey, Mark. Ready, and action.
My goodness.
Over your head? Yeah. This is so bad.
Oh my gosh. Next time you run into one of these jerks, just tell them, hey, my first name is way cooler than your first name.
All right, now we got the guns for you.
So screw off, because your first name is Raiden.
Isn't that dope?
And that is a very cool first name.
It's all good. There we go. That's so good. Bane is on the set of SEAL Team right now. There he is. Bane's brother.
Let's stop this bullying. Let's be bully-proof together. And let's start it now. Coming from me, Tito Ortiz.
We're gonna beat this bullying thing, and we're gonna beat it with love. Enjoy your week in Los Angeles.
Is that cool?
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, brother.
There's Dita.
Get in my trailer, use it, have fun, kick back, because I don't use it, so it's all yours.
House party. Ready to see a dog run backwards?
I want to see a dog run backwards.
Upward. Dita, off. Back. 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 Good girl, go get it. Off. Good girl.
That's cool.
We just want to thank you for coming by. So you'll know when you watch it on TV that guy's named for you. So
Wow.
thank you.
That's pretty awesome, huh?
Raiden, what'd you just hear?
That one of the SEAL team members are probably gonna be named after me.
Wow.
Who's your homie? It's Raiden and tell him Rock. That's right, guys.
Raiden, what's up, my brother? I'm really inspired by everything you've been through and that you're willing to continue to give it a go. You get right back on the saddle, man. Remember, tough times never last. Tough people do. There's a light at the end of that tunnel.
Great, how much today, buddy?
Awesome.
It looked really great. I was following along. It looked like you were having a blast out there.
Jack Carson gave me permission to present this to you. It's a Navy SEAL Trident insignia. Raiden, this SEAL Trident symbolizes the mediums in which we operate, sea, air, and land. But more than that, never quit attitude and mindset.
As soon as I saw what AJ posted, I went in and took that off my uniform and sent it out for you.
That's one of a kind, man. How does it make you feel?
Awesome.
Yeah, you got it. All right.
There is no one in the entire world like you. You are the only one qualified to be you. And that is very cool.
Raiden, what are we about to do?
Watch SEAL team.
Yeah, what episode?
7.
Oh my God.
It hasn't aired yet, has it? Next one, just you're one.
Whoa, that's you on the screen.
You learned that from me.
About to watch SEAL Team a week before it comes out.
The one great thing about our show, it's about brotherhood, and that's this right here. So we're with you, and that's all that matters.
Hey, what's up, Raiden? Listen, I got the cast and the crew of SEAL Team here for you, and we stand with Raiden!
Hey, don't forget to send your Overcome stories to overcomepodcast@gmail.com. And also, rate, review, subscribe, and follow Overcome with Justin Wren.